Hey everyone, this is Rob with goldsilverpros.com, and I'm here today with my good friend Jerry Huang, CFO of Impact Silver and Principal with Jemini Capital. Jerry, how are you today?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. So learning quite a bit about mining finance, and wanted to bring this video to the viewers who are trying to figure out how mines get started and how they're financing their business. I wonder if you give me a moment on your background, and then we'll jump right into
Okay.
talking about some recent transactions.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Rob. So my background's been finance and banking. Been in junior mining for about 10 plus years now, through various iterations of junior mining companies, from starting up exploration companies, Rob, to producer, as you know, with Impact. And then, of course, we advise on larger companies, very mature, 20, 30 plus years my life. So definitely a wide gamut of experience, and certainly more tilted on the junior mining side. And I think certainly for a lot of your viewers, that's certainly where the biggest value creation is, like we say, it's going from zero to hero, the home run discovery holes, or turning from development into near-term cash flow, startup production. That's really where the excitement is. A longtime contact of ours and even clients at different phases. One of the founder of Gold Corp, will say, Rob McEwen, he says once a mine becomes in production, cash flowing, it's actually a declining discounted cash flow, right? So as you start producing, the reserve zero goes down and down. On the exploration phase, actually, you're building the value. So yeah, my background's been mostly finance, accounting, and a lot of the capital markets on junior mining side, which basically, long story short, is a lot of marketing, capital markets, networking, fundraising, to including the janitorial work, right? So you wear a lot of different hats in junior mining, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I know we know each other quite well from Impact Silver. And for those who don't know or haven't read my work on Impact, it's a silver mine in Mexico. You guys have been mining, I guess, since 2007 when you started the mine.
That's right.
You guys have recently found some gold out there as well that look like interesting prospects.
Correct.
And your work with Jemini Capital, can you tell us a little bit about what you do there?
Sure. Yeah. So Gemini is a small merchant bank. We are boutique advisory. We provide a lot of market advice, capital advisory for companies looking to raise money, bit of marketing support, capital introductions to brokers and financiers. We have clients from the small cap, early stage startup production companies, private companies going public, to basically RTOs, listed entities on the large cap side, up to anywhere from 10 to 500 million market cap. So we at any given time, we have usually 2 or 3 clients active on the markets, and we have a small team here, about 3 people, that we help on various aspects of the markets.
Okay. I know there's one company that we were interested in at PDAC and Metals Investment Forum in Toronto, and that was Reyna Silver. And it seemed as though they'd almost been taken over. One of my readers emailed me and was asking about the deal with Century Metals. And I think you had explained it was just a way to take a company public through a reverse takeover. Can you explain a little bit about how reverse takeovers take place and why companies choose those versus maybe going the IPO route?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good question, Rob. Certainly a fair question. Yeah, so when we were obviously helping with our good friend Jorge, who is the CEO and major shareholder of Reyna, and it's obviously a key investment from Mag Silver, which is where they got the project from. And Dr. McGall, who's the technical lead, a very well-known geologist on the deal. Basically, when you texted me after PDAC, I thought we caught up, and you asked me really quickly after the race, the $5-6 million round, has Reyna been taken over? I quickly panicked and looked and like, did I miss something in the news? And then I realized it was actually old news from last September of the RTO, and simply an update. So for more of your investors that haven't been in the space for a very long time, there are several ways for public companies to go to market, including reverse takeover. There's a direct listing via IPO, of course. There's also the RTO process, which sometimes involves going through a capital pool company. That's a CPC route. With a reverse takeover, essentially what's happened here is a previous company called Century Metals, CMET, on the TSX, essentially very low asset on the book, clean share structure. Basically doing an RTO this way, Reyna essentially sells Reyna to Century Metals. Century Metals essentially being public, vends in its shares in exchange for all the assets of Reyna. Reyna, essentially, the private company now becomes a major controlling shareholder of Century Metals, where Century Metals, the hope is their shareholders would still retain 10-15% of the new merged co. And essentially gives a new lease on life for a company before that may have been struggling or just kind of maintaining status quo on a few inactive projects. It's generally seen as a win-win, obviously, for the incumbents and, of course, the newcomers coming in on Reyna.
Okay, great. So that doesn't really affect the Reyna shareholders at all? Did they get new shares, or did they keep their shares, or how does that work?
Yeah. So again, it's versus IPO. Again, it's the end results, so to speak, Rob, will be very similar, with the exception that this will be the faster way. So in Canada and in the U.S., various different markets across the world, you need certain distributions for a public company to go to basically go IPO. So there's usually a minimum distribution requirement of 150 to 200 investors. So they can be very small. They can be $500 to $1,000 each. But as you can imagine, it takes time to get that allocation. So you ask 150 of your best friends to invest. It's like herding cats, right? Like it may not be a material amount. It could be $100, $500. But it's still just getting the subscription form in place. You have to get your lawyers to vet all the sub agreements. They have to be accredited, or if they're not accredited, there's a series of criteria. They then, of course, have to validate themselves using various exemptions, right? Close business associates, friends and family, listen to that, and potentially it's a very standard clause, but again, still it's a lot of paperwork for 150 people. So Reyna, by going through this approach, basically sells their shares to an existing filing company, has functional shareholder registry, and then basically they breathe new life into a company that was at its end of life in a way, because it was trading down to 5 cents, very inactive, broad share. And in this case, they also had commitments to issue certain number of shares. Basically, the shareholders, I believe, ended up owning 15% of the merged company. So again, you are giving them a way out. And obviously, if this share continue the way it is, and again, many companies, as you actually may know in the mining space, Rob, has gone public with the RTO. It's faster. It's obviously it's time and cost efficient in terms of going out and raising money just for the mechanics of the IPO. IPOs also has other due processes with banking and everything else. This way, again, as you know, with Reyna, large amount of money was raised non-brokered. So Jorge and his team, based on the credibility and success on Mag Silver and their various involvements in Mexico, has raised money privately. So why bother getting an investment bank and paying another 7 to 10% on an IPO and ending up with less cash and essentially the same results.
Yeah, so it's just an easier pathway, especially for a lot of these junior mining companies just getting started.
That's
So you were mentioning another company prior to the call that did something similar. Can you walk us through that one?
Yeah, for sure. Another one we saw not long ago was GR Silver. That was an interesting deal as well. Again, they've actually just recently did a deal with First Majestic, whereas essentially they got part of the Silver Mex properties from First Majestic. Part of the Silver Mex property, if you didn't know, went into another company called Silver One. So again, this was a broad package of project that composed of Santa Elena and various projects. Santa Elena obviously was the key project in Silvercrest 1. And so of course Silvercrest 2 continues that package with a few additions that has done really well. So certainly it's got a great heritage. GR Silver, from what caught our eye and attention, was how undermarketed it was for the last 2 years. Up until I think the First Majestic deal 2 weeks ago, not many people have heard of it. It's the same technical team as the team that actually ran on the ground for Silvercrest. Low share count. They've raised a bit of money. I think they mentioned they have a few hundred drill holes that they need to catalog and bring up to 43101. But as it is, they're starting off with a very, very reasonable amount of silver in the ground, 40 million ounces. I recall that also came from essentially an RTO transaction as well. So this is certainly not a novel way to go public for a lot of the TSXV mining companies. And sometimes, if you're lucky, some of the shells, you may even have to get some cash in them as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but again, that would of course then play into the valuation swap. So again,
Hmm.
shells with cash would obviously be worth more, so they would be buying for a larger chunk of your valuation if you've been in your shares.
Okay, great. So for the first time investor or young investors, especially in the junior mining space, I know a
Right.
lot of gold and silver investors look at the big companies first. They're going to look
Hmm.
at the Barricks or
That's
they
right.
may look at Pan American. They're getting
Yeah.
into the junior miner space. What are some good ways that they can learn about financing and understanding these early life companies and how they're built? Are there resources
Yeah.
available?
Definitely. Well, your site for one is
Hmm.
great. GoSilverPros.com.
Okay.
Our good friends, Chris Marcus,
Hmm.
Arcadia Research. There's various sites like Investing News Network, Kitco.
Hmm.
There's a few resources I'm happy to share online, maybe post video as well on the link. Just
Hmm.
basically like a junior mining 101. I know Equity Guru. We were on the site visit together. They've
Hmm.
started putting together similar resources like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I follow a lot of the great newsletter writers who I think we all met at Metal Investor Forum.
Hmm.
Their livelihood is on, based on meritocracy based, subscription based retail investors that subscribe to them. And
Hmm.
they basically tutor and pinpoint out, good opportunities
Hmm.
in the junior mining space. There's also great brokers that
Hmm.
you can basically talk to. They are essentially financial advisors. A lot of them make money on trading and help with private placements. They do get
Hmm.
their commissions in that regard. So it's very much success based. They want their investors and clients to make money.
Yeah, well, good. So, Jerry, thank you so much for explaining how reverse takeovers work and spending a little
Yeah,
bit of time with us on the mining finance
for sure.
portion of junior mining. I think it's a big learning experience for a lot of us who've been in it for a while, but trying to really get into the junior mining sector. And it's a good thing to understand. What's next for you? Are you scheduled for any conferences this year for Impact?
Yeah, for Impact, we just put out our annuals. It was a good
Hmm.
year with silver prices towards the end of 2019 wrapping up.
Okay.
We were slated for quite a few conferences. A few key ones during the year were PDAC, the Cambridge Metal
Hmm.
Investor Forum, beginning of the years, which we did,
Hmm.
and we got endorsement from a few newsletter writers. So it's obviously great to see that press. Obviously, COVID-19 was quite unexpected
Yes.
for I think anybody in the market. So I think everyone is trying to find their footing, including
Hmm.
the vendors for the conferences. We've switched to a lot of the virtual and online webinars and
Hmm.
doing interviews with someone like yourself, which I
Hmm.
think it's starting to grow and grow. So if anything, this is a great time to be endorsing online investment and tutor platforms
Hmm.
like yourselves and Go Silver Pros, because these are resources that will stand the test of distance and social distancing.
Hmm.
Nobody really knows how long that will last. I mean, there's a conference we usually do for the rest of the year, which is Denver Gold and BMO, and also, of course, sort of Minds and Money.
Hmm.
Right now is usually when there's one in Asia, there's one in Toronto in May, and then one in London in UK. Rest of the year, again, that's I think they're all the vendors are trying to basically find a way to put that online in terms of the
Hmm.
webinar or like a conference format, because this can very much last until July.
Hmm.
And if you miss an opportunity to capture that audience, they're going to go somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, no clear answer right now, but
Hmm.
for the time being, I think we're doing well on a lot of the webinars and
Hmm.
outreach, social media, engaging a lot of the younger audiences. And I think everyone's learning how to use Zoom quite fast.
Hmm.
So I think that's a great thing.
Yep.
There's funny saying in the industry that if you can't get a hold of someone right now, they probably don't want to hear from you because
That's
everyone is home.
right.
So but yeah, I mean, the rest of the year, very much likely a mix of online meetings,
Hmm.
online conferences, virtual webinars,
Hmm.
and hopefully towards the end of the year, some more in-person conferences. We certainly do like to meet our stakeholders and investors.
Yeah, I definitely love the conferences. Hope they come back. But don't mind doing these either. Appreciate your time. Look
For
forward
sure.
to having a good year. I think it's going to be a good year for the precious metals. Looks like
Yeah.
we're having some financial troubles in the bond market and
Yeah,
in the stock market. So I'm seeing lots of investors come back. I know we started to see that at PDAC and
definitely.
Metals Investor Forum. So
Yeah, that's
good
correct.
year.
I
Should be a
mean,
good year for Impact second half of the year. Thank you so much, Jerry.
yeah,
Appreciate your time.
sounds good.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Take care.